let's see who's online tonight then. Let's get this live stream started whilst looking completely mad in my fishing hat. Yeah, I've lost it, I think. Okay, so the F1 was won by Vettel. Raikkonen ran over a mechanic in the garage. The touring cars was pretty good at Brands Hatch. Got to remember lots of notes to take. Oh yeah, got notes to take. But still, no, the Humboldt Broncos bus tragedy is dominating the sports news at the moment. It has been for a couple of days. 15 confirmed killed. The youngest was 15. He was a subscriber of another channel I subscribed to, and he was the team scorekeeper. 15-year-old kid. Yeah. So, sport this week has had a pretty rough week. Pretty rough. Arsenal have picked up a bit of form in the league. They're 1-3-2 today. Chelsea, West Ham was 1-1. So a lot of interesting things have been happening today, but the Humboldt Broncos coach crashes is dominating the sports headlines. There's been nothing new about Conor McGregor and his antics the other night in New York. Nothing further to add, so there's nothing new there. But it is what it is, and we have to wait and see what happens. Excuse me, over the next couple of weeks with Conor. Still. I've taken loads of notes the last few days, video ideas, and get them there. There's a lot to do. Oh, shit. Cardiff won the Elite League playoffs. Right, let's see who's on. Hello. Yeah, just joined. Place your questions in the chat section, and I'll do my best to answer them. Sport-related questions. Obviously, a lot's been happening in sport today. It's the last day of the regular NHL season. Last regular NHL season match to take place today between Florida and Boston. All the playoff teams have secured their places. It's just one seeding. Obviously, the Humboldt Broncos bus crash has been dominating the sports news all week. So our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone affected in that. I mean, the youngest victim was 15, so there's that. But interestingly, no further news on Conor McGregor and what's going on with his antics and what he's been doing. We'll have to see what happens when he does have his trial date. Obviously, his bail's been set, and we'll just have to see what happens going forward with Conor McGregor. I'll be very interested to see what happens with Conor McGregor, but it's been quiet on that front for a day or so. So we'll have to see on that. But the whole Man City defeat to Man United's raising some interesting questions about. Yeah, I had to. My hair's a mess. I will say this though to everyone viewing: there will not be any videos tomorrow, and there'll be no live stream tomorrow. I'm going to a funeral, so I'm not really in the mood to do a live stream tomorrow. I've got one of my friends passed away a couple of weeks ago, so I have a funeral to go to tomorrow. So there'll be no videos and no live stream. I just thought I'd make that clear at the beginning, and so if you're expecting a live stream tomorrow or any videos, there won't be any. But no, I've got all the video ideas that you guys have given me over the last few live streams. Are all here. All these video ideas from live streams, so I appreciate all those video ideas. So So we'll be doing a bit of research tomorrow when I get home from the funeral. I'll be doing some research into my videos, but I'm not going to be in a very good frame of mind to do any, I'm afraid. And I don't particularly want to be all blubbering on thing. Cardiff won the Elite League playoff final. I didn't catch it. I was watching the Master Golf. Tiger Woods is actually playing surprisingly well for a guy who's coming back from several back operations. I think he eagled a birdie the 15th hole at Augusta. Good shot as well. But no. The annoying thing is, and this is what annoys me, it's a national final between the two of the best teams in I think the Bison won the. I think the Basingstoke Bison won the National League, but Cardiff. So we've had all these finals on today, and the only coverage is the internet stream off the BBC website. And lots of young talented British players playing, and the only coverage was a crappy live feed on the BBC Sport website. Doesn't do it for me. I think this is a problem with sport. But I think Basingstoke Bison. I'll have to double check that. But I think the Bison won. They were 2-0 up in the third. I'll have to check. Christ, where's the bloody website? But yeah, the weather's not been great all day, which is a shame. Let's get on the old internet, find out who won today. Right, let's find it. Oh God, oh bloody hell! My Twitter's doing something funny now. God, you gotta love checking up on scores. Oxford City Stars won the Division 2 South, or Division 2. I think. Let me just have a double check on banners on the wall. Let's check out banners on the wall. Yeah, the Basingstoke Bison won the National Ice Hockey League in the UK. So there's that. The bus crash, the Humboldt Broncos. I mean that's I think put everything into perspective. The youngest person killed on the bus was the 15-year-old scorekeeper, who was a subscriber to a channel that I subscribe to. And he was 15, so it really puts it all into perspective, what's going on. And I think at the same time, it puts certain sportsmen to shame with some of their antics, such as Conor McGregor and co. When these young lads are not getting paid a lot of money. Most of them are a junior age, so they can't sign full-time contracts. They get billeted at people's houses they don't know. So yeah. Is what it is. That doesn't surprise me as well with the Steelers van getting a ticket. Doesn't surprise me. Overzealous, traffic meter maids wanting to make a bit of, hit their bonus. But no, yeah, everyone who's just joined the stream, place your questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah, we have got a lot of video ideas the last week or so of live streams. We've got a full 4 pages worth of video ideas, so that's a lot to go through tomorrow on basically my what I've got to do tomorrow. But that's a lot of interesting stuff. There are a lot of things to discuss, and there are a lot of things to discuss this week. Obviously, Manchester City blowing that 2-goal lead, and this week Manchester City, their defence is suspect. I do believe the Oxford City Stars will be playing in the Division 1 South next year. I do believe that. I think the issue with the league before it started this season was some of the league format and the cup games, etc. So I watched that space. Not today, but I have been given a couple of streaming sites, so I can be able to watch it from tomorrow and catch up tomorrow. So I wasn't able to watch the IPL today, which is a problem. If you at the beginning of the season, when the league started, there was maybe a promotion relegation system, and obviously we had an odd number of teams, and the Oxford City Stars and Chelmsford Chieftains weren't happy with something in the league structure, and so we had 9 teams, and it's meant to be a 10-team league. So this was right at the beginning of the season. This is what I read on the various websites, the various teams. So I'm assuming as they've won the South Division 2, that they will be going up. But we have to see what's announced. In the next couple of weeks and days about league structure, because this is British ice hockey. We're not sure what's going to happen from one season to the next, with teams being able to compete. It's the same with Elite League ice hockey. I don't know what it was. There was some disagreement with the format. Now I don't understand what the disagreement was. Obviously, you had 7 EPL teams going down. You had 2 EPL teams going up to the Elite League, and you had 1 EPL team going out of business. So there was only 7 teams to compete in the EPL, which is not really, going to work. 7 teams, that means only 4 teams get to compete in playoffs, and 3 teams, a round robin tournament to see who's the best of the rest. So, and to keep the budgets down, the other teams in the tiers below were on lesser budgets and had lesser attendance figures, and so therefore, it was decided to disband the EPL. Now I don't understand why Chelmsford and Oxford they agreed to the initial league structure, and then for whatever reason they disagreed with the league structure, and they pulled out and they stayed in Division 2. So hence why we had 9 teams, and hence why Cardiff was so uncompetitive all season, and couldn't get a win. But we have to see what happens in the summer. There's many things going to happen in the summer. There's going to be a lot of player moves. We'll have to see what happens with Basingstoke. Now, you've obviously heard rumours that Basingstoke will still be able to have a team next year and a rink to play at. I'm not sure if they can play at Slough, but we shall see. But it is what it is. We'll have to see if the Edinburgh Capitals stay in the Elite League, because that could screw the Elite League up fixture-wise. I went on holiday there once, and sort of guys with the mullet. I went on holiday years ago, and I picked this up for trinkets. Literally, I paid pennies for this, and I just felt like wearing it. Oh, that's where you've heard it from. Well, Casey, I will say this. Firstly, the reason why I'm wearing a Croatian hat is I like this hat. It's funky. It's out there. I used to wear it at raves and stuff. And yeah, I picked it up on a big. I bought it at a little market by the beach in Croatia, and I thought, I'll have it. Casey, what you have to be careful of is the rumour mill, because as a Bracknell fan with our ice hockey team, we've had money problems for a while. We were lucky to play the last EPL season. And obviously with the reduced costs this year with only 2 imports, I think that's helped us financially. But you have to be very, very careful on the rumour mill, because the uncertain future, as with the rumour mill in any sport, as we found out in the summer, the league almost didn't take place this year because Chelmsford and Oxford got their knickers in a twist, basically, and that annoyed all the other fan bases in Division 1 and Division 2 South. It really annoyed all the other fan bases. I think it was supposed to do with Peterborough possibly being in the South Division rather than the North Division 1. for whatever reason. I think it's, but I've heard a lot of rumours about that. But all I know is that they pulled out and they had to rejig the structure of the league a little bit. Just think of you guys. It was bad like last season. I bet you guys would be asked to drop down. Thing is, we've got the Bracknell Hornets down there as the youth, well, basically the youth team and the development team. Well, I wouldn't say we were bad, but Manchester Phoenix running out of money really screwed up the whole league structure because it meant we missed out on the playoffs by a few points, and that's annoying. But this is the issue with British ice hockey: is the we don't know what happens from one season to the next. It is good that the women's under 18s have won gold at their championships they're playing at. It's good that the Elite League has got at least some mainstream media coverage that's free to air on BBC, just about. I don't think the fan base would have gone with it. We've got a new owner and we've got a new ownership group now, so we know that the future is reasonably secure. Our mental collapse this season, I think, is the problem. It will be interesting to see what happens in the summer, what players get moved around. A lot of players, I think, are going to move places between teams. It is very interesting that you've already started signing your players to your team. But in any sport, near the bottom end, near the grassroots level, money's tight, and the future of the sport is always perilous, especially at lower levels where there's less money. But we have to see what happens in the off season in the summer. Excuse me, and we have to see what happens. Yeah, this is the issue, and we're used to, and as fans in here in the UK, we are used to it. It's unfortunate that the IHF doesn't step in more. It's unfortunate that leagues like the NHL don't partner up with the leagues in Europe more effectively, because the NHL drafts loads of European players, takes them over to North America, and then the European leagues get the crappy ex-NHL players back. It's not a fair exchange. So I think the NHL needs to invest in the European hockey as well, and look after and help the leagues over here, because we supply a lot of the players in Europe for the NHL, AHL affiliate thing. So that's and the NHL's got a lot richer in the last couple of years, because Vegas joining has meant that $500 million US has been pumped into the league before shirt sales this season, ticket receipts this season, viewership this season. Still got the playoffs to go yet. So there's that. But I think it is a responsibility of the big leagues to help support the minor leagues that, supply them with players that they readily poach. And so therefore we're denied of that talent. But no, you got some interesting points there, Casey. I know you couldn't be involved in the live stream last night. It was a good live stream last night. We had a lot of interesting topics come up. And this Humboldt Broncos tragedy that's happened in Canada, it is now dominating the sports headlines a lot. And it's also very interesting that Conor McGregor's antics, what happened in New York the other day, a lot of people online, on various websites, forums, on YouTube, Twitter, you name it. A lot of people online were saying it was a publicity stunt. If that's a publicity stunt, it's gone horribly, horribly wrong. UFC has problems with legality in some countries. Australia only recently made it legal, and in Australia, it's you can compete at UFC in Melbourne, but not in Sydney because of state law as well. All it needs is another bad incident like this, and it makes it a lot more difficult. Well, the thing is, Free Sports is the free arm of Premier Sports, which is where you actually pay for the pay-per-view on Sky. They have to try and get the viewership in. Unfortunately, the NHL games they show are not the great ones. They're not the best ones. They're not the highlight reel ones, which will make the NHL money. Much like the issue with Scottish football, because the games that are going to be on show are not as good quality, and they have to make money. They do have the Elite League on Premier Sports, and as Free Sports and as it gets more viewership and as it grows as a channel and as Premier Sports Network grows, um, the Elite League may come on the Free Sports, but at the TV deal that was signed, it's pay per view only for the mainstream season, which I think is wrong when you're trying to grow a league. I didn't see any of the IPL today, Sajid, so I can't comment on they lost, but this is why I like T20 cricket, because it can be very unpredictable and you may have this odds on favourite of a team, and because it's only 20 overs innings, it makes it very, very interesting. And I love the fact that you are really knowledgeable in the cricket, and I do have a lot of video ideas to do with cricket. So for those who just joined the live stream, I'm not doing any live stream tomorrow. I'm doing no videos tomorrow at all, and I'm at a funeral. So for those who just joined, I'm just going to update people who've joined. But I will be researching the video ideas. Yes, NHL on the fly. NHL on the fly is from the NHL network. They do show it, obviously. It's to do with the TV rights and what the contract. In case it's all lots of legal stuff. Premier Sports owns Free Sports. Premier Sports signed a contract with the Elite League saying it will show Elite League games on its network on the pay-per-view channel only, which is Premier Sports. Free Sports, they haven't signed that in the contract. So I would look for that to change. I really would. And you have to watch it on Premier Sports, Casey. That's No, you can watch it on Premier Sports because I've watched the Elite League on Premier Sports before, and occasionally it's on Sky Sports as well. Trust me, Casey, you can. Free Sports, you can't. Premier Sports, the parent channel, you can, but you have to pay for it. I can't either, and I can't get the Free Sports channel on my Freeview box because my Freeview box is too old. So I'm missing out on free-to-air sport because it's HD only, which is also a mistake. But at the moment, we're only talking about ice hockey, and that's, I think, possibly boring for the other viewers. And I want to see what questions they have to ask as well, because this is how the live stream works. I'm not. I know, Casey, that you. Oh no, yeah, that you can go on YouTube. So West Ham against the odds have done. Possibly. There's still, I think, 4 or 5 games left. So 4 points in 2 games is a pain in the arse to stay up. But West Ham have got other problems off the field. So it is what it is. Well, there's a lot of questions coming really, really quickly. Premier Sports, to get Premier Sports, you actually have to have a Sky subscription, Casey. So you check with your family if you've got a Sky subscription. It costs a fair bit of money. So you have to double check that. Yes, Sajid. Yes, paying for sports over here in real terms is it is a lot. Casey Neistat, am I planning to do individual series on the NHL? That is a video idea I could do. I'm not doing any videos tomorrow because I'm at a funeral, but I can do. I don't see why not. I know I'm a Jets fan, but I don't do one just on the Jets because that would mean I am being biased. So I can look into it, and so I can do more NHL videos for the channel if you want to. But by all means, Casey needs to start, of course I can. I'll have to research. I mean, I've got a week to the playoff start, so I can research it properly, and I can do some playoff predictions. I could do the Stanley Cup tree prediction, so I can definitely do a playoff prediction video. It may be a longer video than I normally would do, but I'm happy to do it. Yeah, so I'm going to write that down on my list of research. I've got paper all over the place. So yeah, I will happily after the Florida-Boston game, I will have an idea, because obviously Boston need to work out they're going to finish first or second in their division, because Tampa have complete. This is the game that was postponed to the weather in Boston, and obviously Florida have just missed out on the playoffs, which I was hoping Florida would get in, but because their running was they played absolutely amazingly. Let me just get all this down. Right, okay. So I've got that playoff idea video. I think I can. I'll be happy to do so if the request is there. I'm happy to look at it. I've got a lot of requests in from a lot of viewers, so I've got to give them all equal time. Otherwise, I don't not give those videos equal time. But that is a very, very good question, and thank you for it. Talk about other sports. I like hearing what's going on in other sports. Other sports at the moment, the Masters golf is obviously taking place, and Tiger Woods has made the cut. He's on the last day. And he's playing better than I thought he would, Tiger Woods. With his back injuries that he's had, he's lost a bit of power. But so Casey, if you it's on the Red Button BBC, and it's on BBC Two. So if you want to watch golf and learn a bit about golf, everyone says it's an old man sport, but if he's an old man sport, then why people like Jordan Spieth are in their early 20s winning major tournaments? How do I manage to keep up to date on so many sports? I've had a lot of free time, and I do this channel as a hobby. Before Christmas, the job I was at was an office job, so on my lunch break I had an hour, and I had plenty of time to keep up to date with what was going on, get my video ideas down, and then finish work at 5 o'clock, get home, have dinner, do a couple of videos. I didn't have to work weekends. But how do I keep up to date? I've been out of work for a couple of months. I was monetized, so this was a money earner until the Logan Paul. But I enjoy sport. I've got some video ideas on some very obscure sports that some of my viewers have placed in questions below, and I'm happy to do videos on them. But I've been following sports since I was 3 years old. It's a hobby of mine to do this channel, and I enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing this channel. I have played sport as well. Both my granddads played sport quite to a reasonable level, and this is in the 50s and 60s and 70s when professionalism in all sports wasn't there. My dad played non-league football for his local town club in the West Country of England. So I've been around sports since I was a kid. I've been going to sporting events since I was a kid, and I've enjoyed watching sports since I was 2 years old. I've got books on the subject. I try my best to keep up with sports, but I focus on the mainstream sports mostly. But I'm happy to look into more obscure sports. But I try my best. I can't always cover everything, but I do try my best. And I've been given some ideas for streaming sites so I can catch up with a few on-demand replays of NRL and the IPL, so I can. Two of the sports I'm very passionate about, rugby league and cricket, I can keep it more up to date. Commonwealth Games, yes, England are doing quite well. In fact, all 4 of the home nations, England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, plus the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man. There's a reason why Great Britain, as a whole, is near the top of the medal tables in the Summer Olympics. And these are exactly the same events you'll get in the Summer Olympics for the most part. There are some sports in there that aren't Olympic sports. But yeah, this is part of the Olympic cycle for these athletes. Yes, the tournament and they've got these Commonwealth Games have come a bit earlier in the year, calendar year, than they normally would, and that's partly to do with it being on the Gold Coast and weather conditions and working it around the World Cup in Russia. The TV rights and the TV companies would have had a bit to play with the date of the Commonwealth Games. And there have been issues with this Commonwealth Games, but England are doing reasonably well. So are Scotland. Northern Ireland have got a gold in the men's gymnastics on the pommel horse. Wales have got a Commonwealth record in long jump, in women's long jump. So the home nations of the UK are doing very, very well. I tried golf once, but I had a slice so bad the balls came back to me. It's all about how you angle your club face. Well, I used to work at a golf course. I live near many golf courses. Within a 5 mile ride, my motorbike, I'm at a golf course. So I'm blessed in the fact that there are a lot of golfing facilities in my local area. But yeah, I would say obviously practice makes perfect. You've only tried it the once, so obviously it wasn't a sport for you. But Australia has for many years produced many great golfers. Do you understand curling? Yes, I do understand curling. It's very similar to bowls, where you have to get as close as possible to basically what would be the jack. It's basically bowls on ice with curling stones. I do understand curling. I understand the principle of it. Do I find it interesting? No. There are people obviously in Canada and Scotland and Scandinavia who really do, and that's where curling is most popular. I did feel that the coverage of curling at the Winter Olympics was too much when sports like ice hockey and speed skating, I think, should have got more coverage because they're more exciting and they're more likely to get the higher viewership. But it is what it is. We have to live with that. Right, what would I pick to change for England's test team as it clearly needs to change? I'm assuming that's cricket. I think I would drop Alistair Cook if it's the cricket team you're talking about. I assume you are a cricket fan because you mentioned the IPL earlier. Abdulaziz, is that how you pronounce your name? I'm going to call you Abdul because I don't want to mispronounce your first name and seem stupid. I would definitely drop Alistair Cook. I at the moment wouldn't have Ben Stokes in the side because of his legal issues that he has at the moment with the charges he faces back here in the UK. I would probably call up Tom Curran because he's been doing well in county cricket and he is a very young, fit, healthy player at the moment. I would look at I would definitely look at tinkering the bowling line, probably giving Jimmy Anderson a break. But obviously, the Test series in the summer are coming round, so. But I think Chris Wokes, he is 33, but he would be good as a depth bowler, just as a stopgap, while the young bowlers that are being developed can come through. It is what it is. I'm not saying that Alistair Cook is a bad player, but he has completely lost his touch as an opener, and he's the next captain. I'm not a big fan of sports teams having the current captain and the ex-captain in the same side. I think that creates a bit of a confusing dynamic for what direction the team's going in. Cook, he does have his issues even here in the UK. When we play home Test series in England, he does have issues with spin. In the past, he's had issues with reverse swing in the past. Alistair Cook has had phases in his career when he's good and bad. I do think he's nearing the end of his Test career, at least. He's not a bad first-class batsman. Test career, I think he's near the end. We also need to work out who is going to open the batting and go with it for 18 months. Personally, though, I don't know what changes I personally would make because Stuart Broad has had a few wobbles in form, but he's still taking wickets. Bairstow, I'm not 100% sold on Bairstow, but Moeen Ali can play up the order or down the order. We've got to look at how long the tail is, and I think most of the England tail can bat a bit, but at the same time, if you're keeping Alistair Cook in the side when he's not performing, and then you're constantly changing his opening partner, that's going to breed no confidence in the other number one and number three batsmen around Alistair Cook, because they're constantly changing it, and that doesn't help Alistair Cook either. But I think Alistair Cook is past his best as a Test player, and I think you just have to go. You have to look at county cricket more and properly assess these first-class players over a long period of time and go, right, let's give Stoneman a chance. Let's possibly put Moeen Ali at 3, or Joe Root higher up the order. Let's have a look at the all-rounder position, because Ben Stokes, he may be England's best player, but he's got these legal issues right now, and I think that's also affecting it. Plus, he can't bowl at the moment because he's injured. So he's just a dead weight. That means we could have another seamer in the attack or another spinner, and he's just there because he can bat, which means fielding's going to be a problem if he's got an injured hand. Drop him out of it. Moeen Ali, I think, has been used to death. He's exhausted. I think. I honestly believe that some of these players have been played too much, and have basically been playing cricket constantly for a good solid 2 to 3, 5 years. But I also think coaching could be an issue, and the coach's insistence on basically, I would call it favouritism, going safe, or favouring players who aren't in form. So Alistair Cook is not in form right now. He cannot hit a barn door, really. And then we've got to look at the bowling attack past Anderson and Broad. Stokes is injured at the moment, even though he can bat. Well, that worries me if he's got a hand injury. That means he can't field effectively. Moeen Ali, I think, is not fully fit either, and he's looking very tired. That worries me. That really, really worries me. The bowling attack is looking very, very tired, and Jimmy Anderson is late 30s now, and Stuart Broad is past 30 now. I think we have to give them more backup in the bowling lineup, but we'll have to see how players like Tom Curran and Alex Hales do in the IPL. We have to see how they do, and it'll be interesting if they do have Chris Wokes and other players. All these players have gone to the IPL who are English, and there's 11 of them. There are 11 English players playing in the IPL, which I think is the most ever. That will be very interesting to see how these 11 players perform on Indian wickets, the higher temperatures and the humidity, and doing a lot more nighttime games, and how they cope with the heat, the humidity, which will stay humid even in the early evening. It will be very hot throughout the games they play, be it daytime, afternoon, early evening, or nighttime. The humidity will stay almost constant. So it'll be very interesting to see how they adapt to that, and how they also then, and they've learned these skills because they've seen how the Indians play, what they can bring back to the English game. Stoneman, I think you just need to go with these guys for 18 months and say, look, we're going to keep you in the Test side, and just bat through it. But so often we've had this issue where we chop and change the batting order too much, which then affects the confidence of the players you're chopping and changing all the time. To get better or to rebuild, you have to stick with players occasionally and work through a rough patch. Or sometimes you have to drop players and then coach them through a rough patch. But the issue is, another issue is, and I'll get to that ECB comment later on, because the ECB didn't release players until later on. The first English players didn't go to the IPL until later on. Another issue is, at the moment, England can't win a Test match abroad, and they haven't done for 18 months. So there's an issue there as well with, are these players overplaying? Are they being played too much? Test cricket as a whole needs a revamp, and I think the day-night Test match will work. You got the Duke and the Kookaburra balls. Kookaburra make the pink ball at the moment. Duke hasn't made a pink ball at the moment. That I'm aware of. They may have done, but obviously it's not. The cricket season has just started here, so it will be interesting to see if the day-night format also goes over into county. That'll be interesting. But no, the ECB were very slow on the uptake of T20, and they were very reluctant to release players because they had most of the Test players were on centralised contracts, which also alleviates some of the financial pressures of the counties. But T20 is clearly improving the 50-over format of the game, or 40-over format of the game if it's just domestic first class. It's also improving first-class domestic cricket, as in 4-day matches, and it's also improved Test cricket. So I was very, very surprised that the ECB were very slow on the uptake. And for a long time, England struggled in Test series for a long time because they were slow on this uptake. And the ECB, I think there's too many old boys in there. I think it's not. I think they need to freshen up the running of the ECB and sweep some of the out of date, out of touch figures of the sport away, because that's what's killing it. It's not that Test cricket is boring. I love Test cricket. I love the challenge of playing for up to 5 days, with variable conditions on each day, with variable wicket conditions. That is brilliant, and variable ball wear. It's brilliant. I've been watching Test cricket since I was 3-4 years old. But I think the day-night Test format is the way forward. Obviously, it's been proven that in T20 you can play at night time with the white ball. It obviously has been proven in the IPL and the Big Bash and other T20 competitions. So I don't see the problem with playing day-night tests. I think the pink ball is not the answer. I think the white ball will probably be the full answer. Is go with the Kookaburra white ball or the Duke white. That could be the answer. But if they can do day-night matches in baseball, and they have been doing it for a very, very long time, they can do it in cricket. There's a lot of cricket questions. I will mention Geoffrey Boycott's book. Geoffrey Boycott is a boring old fart. He's also an alcoholic wife beater, so I cannot stand the man. He is very dismissive of lower order batsmen, because I class as 1 to 11, you're all batsmen. And I think everyone, at some point has turned their arm over bowling at some level of cricket. I've seen some number 7s, 8, 9s, 10s, and 11s get 50s and 100s in first class and in Test matches. So I find Geoffrey Boycott going, oh, he's a slogger. It's like, no, the game is becoming more exciting and these guys are risk takers. That's why it's fun to watch. Geoffrey Boycott is the most outdated cricket commentator. He's one of the most vile characters they have up there. I cannot stand him. He beat his wife up. He's a tosser. Right, on a green track, yeah, I will admit the pink ball does struggle on a green track, or when it's worn down a bit, it's okay. But when it's the new ball, it does struggle. I don't like Geoffrey Boycott. It's not his voice; it's his opinions. He's outdated. He wants to play the game at the rate paint dries. So his run rate wasn't the best as a player. Great player that he was. He's a vile human being because he beat his wife, but he expects sympathy because he had cancer. Favorite format of cricket? I love T20 because it is exciting. But I first saw cricket as Test match, and then I watched a World Cup match. I think Test cricket should go into the more colourful side of 50 over and T20 with the colourful uniforms, because that will attract more people. It will. You can wear your team's colours then. It will attract. I think day night's the way forward, but you've got to get rid of some of these old crusts at the MCG and the ECB and the ICC. They've got to be swept away. What county do I support cricket? Well, I'm from Berkshire, England, and we do have a county cricket side in the 3rd tier of English cricket. We don't have it in the 1st or 2nd tier, which is annoying. Surrey is the nearest professional county, and and Hampshire are the nearest two counties that play professionally, the top two tiers of English county cricket. I don't really have a favourite county cricket side, if I'm completely honest. But if I was to go to a game, it would probably be a Surrey Hampshire match, because they're my two local counties. If they were playing each other in any form of the game, be it 50 over, T20 or 4-day county cricket, I would probably go to see them. But I don't really have a favourite county cricket side. I do like T20. I think that's my favourite form of the game at the moment, because it is exciting. It then just comes down to player skill more than ball wearing, and the shot selection and some of the fielding and some of the bowling. It is the ultimate test of skill if it's properly done. Sometimes I watch county cricket on YouTube when it's streamed live. I think more sports will go to live streaming on free-to-air platforms like YouTube, where you don't have to pay, where the ads pop up and you have the little sponsor cards. I think that's going to happen more and more. And it is very telling to note that Free Sports, UK channel by Premier Sports, is a brand new free-to-air sports channel that eventually I will be able to get on my Freeview box when I update the Freeview box, because my Freeview box is gone. I think that's going to be very, very interesting. With sports coverage. I know the Masters is on, but I want to do this live stream, and I have a TV upstairs, because I promised a live stream every night this week. I'm gonna do that. My favourite cricket commentator was Richie Benaud before he passed away. But I like when Michael Kasparovich commentates occasionally. He's good. I like Michael Vaughan as a commentator, and some of the ex-players are very, very good. I cannot stand Geoffrey Boycott. I like Jonathan Agnew as well. Jonathan Agnew is a very, very, very good cricket commentator, and I've got a lot of time for listening for his views on the game. But Geoffrey Boycott's my least favourite. I would say Michael Vaughan. He's a very laid-back, respectful character that, sometimes as a player got questioned, did he have the mental fortitude? Was he tough enough? But look at the amount of runs he scored in the time he was playing for England. I do remember in one Test series, he even, as captain, put himself into bowl for a couple of overs and got a couple of Test wickets. So he can bowl a few leg breaks. There are some commentators I can't stand. Worst is Boycott, and that's in my era. But as an overall, Richie Benaud was my favourite until he passed away. He was an absolutely brilliant commentator, and he had a very laid back voice, and he wasn't shouty. He was very relaxed, flowing with his commentary and his views on the game, and he'd obviously seen the game develop decade on decade since he'd retired. He'd been commentating on it constantly and following the game right up to the last day he was with us. He was brilliant. McIlroy in second. Yeah, McIlroy does have a very good chance of winning the Masters. Very, very good chance. I think anyone who's made the cut in the Masters is, that's your top X amount of players in the world at the time. The Masters is probably the hardest of the open, like the open style championships, the big championships to win. The big majors, it is the hardest. People say the Open's the hardest, or the USPGA, or anything like that, or there's a couple of golf tournaments, but I think the Masters is the hardest golf tournament to win. For me, I mean, I've been watching the Masters since 1993, but I think that's the hardest one to win. And I've been thinking that for a very, very long time, that I think it's a true test of skill, because when it rains at the Open over here in the UK, most golfers you play in England are all, 1 day in 3 it rains in the UK on average. Every third day it rains. So on a 4-day tournament, you're going to have at least 1 day of rain. Um, um, but no, McIlroy's doing quite well, and a bogey in there is not going to be the end of his charge, and it could go to a playoff. They could be more than one player tied at the top, and it could go to a playoff, and that has happened several times at the Masters. And I remember when the Argentine golfer won Cabrera, and it went to a playoff when he won his green jacket. The weather conditions at Augusta, when it rains there, the thunderstorms and strong winds and the torrential rain, it's different than if it was raining here, because a big storm can come in very, very quickly and be very, very powerful and lots of lightning, and they have to stop playing. It really affects that course more. I didn't watch the Chelsea game today, but I have some subscribers who are Chelsea fans. I have got Live Score as an app. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of sacking managers in football. Football, not American football. Football. I'm not a big fan of giving managers the sack constantly, because it doesn't help develop the player's skill set, philosophy at each club. And some clubs have gone through so many managers in the last 10 years. It's more than a manager a season. And Chelsea are one of these clubs that has a high manager turnover. But they're one of the few clubs that have a high manager turnover that stay successful. I think the issue is it's his second season now. No silverware. League form's deserted them. Their league position is not as where the owner wants it to be, or the fan base of what you're used to it being. And I think some fan bases have to be more realistic than expecting to win every season. I think this is where football's gone wrong. Fans expect success every year at certain clubs, and it doesn't always happen. Every club has to go through a period of decline or lesser fortunes. As a Blackburn fan, I can assure that. But it is what it is. But let me go through this. McIlroy, he still has a chance to catch the leader, and it could go to a playoff. Thoughts on David Gold? David Gold is a crook. He's been to prison. Both Gold and Sullivan were pornographers when pornography was illegal. Now, there are certain laws going through the US right now, the Foster-Sester Act, which I disagree with, because it actually puts the sex workers at more risk, and that's a whole other kettle of fish, and censorship and things like that. But when pornography in this country was illegal, and when I say illegal, you've got burlesque shows, that's one thing. Strip clubs and porn mags, it was actually a crime to actually distribute them or run them. And David Gold went to prison. I believe David Sullivan had a couple of misdemeanor offences as well. They are criminals. They got to run a football club in Birmingham City and ruin that. And then bought West Ham. My thoughts on David Gold. I don't like Gold and Sullivan. I have friends who are West Ham fans. I don't like Gold and Sullivan because the fit and proper persons test to run a football club is clearly a joke. If people who've been to prison or been convicted of any offence, because obscenity crimes sometimes can be quite serious depending on your jurisdiction. The fit and proper persons test that the FA sets out is a joke, because the guy who owns Nottingham Forest is involved in a drug dealing ring, and he's been accused of match fixing. I look at the Venky's running Blackburn. They don't have a clue how to run a football team. Abramovich and Chelsea, I have some concerns with how certain issues of that club's running. There are issues in football in the UK, lots of issues, and financial fair play as well. That's another thing that's not been properly enforced. What's the point of having a rule if you're not going to enforce it? I think West Ham is a club that has off-field issues, and they're not good enough on the field, but off the field there are problems with the running, the transparency, the fact that David Gold used the club to launder money. Oh yeah, that came out, and he's trying to avoid paying £700,000 in taxes that he owes the tax office. The fans have a right to protest. I agree on that. The way they went about it was wrong, but at the same time, it reached a point where they felt they had no choice. It also highlights the issues with the stadium. its suitability for football. It also highlights the issues with the policing of the ground, the stewarding of the ground, and there's other issues there. Man United, yeah, no, Guardiola, I think, is overrated as a manager. He's never had to go to a club that's had a few struggles. He's always gone to a club with a big fan base and big money. This week for Man City has highlighted how woeful their defending is. Woeful defending. I do think Man City are missing Di Michaelis, Kolarov, and Zabaleta. Now, Kolarov and Zabaleta can run all day up and down those wing back positions. All day. All day. High energy players. Kolarov with the dead ball was immense. Zabaleta could also put a free kick in as well. They were very, very good spatially. And they were energy runners. They could do it all day. Di Michaelis, okay, he wasn't the quickest centre back. Honestly, Di Michaelis was not the quickest centre back, and he sometimes had an error in him. But I think he was far more decent than Stones and Otamendi, and he had a very good working relationship with Vincent Kompany. Very, very good. There's a reason why they had so much success as a partnership. Stones, I think, is overrated and overpaid and overvalued, and Otamendi cannot defend to save his life. Kyle Walker as a right centre back makes no logical sense because he's a wing back, so he's playing out of position. I don't understand, but Guardiola has no plan B either. He doesn't have a plan B. He's got this stupid obsession, this fetish for sweeper keepers. Because when he was at Bayern, he had Manuel Neuer. But when he was at Barcelona, he didn't have this obsession. He's developed it. And he seems to think every goalkeeper's Manuel Neuer. If you have the sweeper position, which is another centre-back basically, who, when the ball goes over, clears up, and then when you're on the attack, moves in front of the back four to make an extra midfielder, it takes the pressure off the goalkeeper. It means you have an extra body, when they get the ball, the opposite get the ball to, make it a bit more difficult around the box. And it means you don't have to play a risky offside game, which Man City do. But unfortunately, for some reason, Guardiola seems to combine the sweeper and the goalkeeper together, and it doesn't work because it's putting too much pressure on the goalkeeper. And really, Rosed will do, or long balls will do. You don't have to pass it every time, but he has an obsession with it. And if you put enough pressure on that back line, they can't cope mentally because Vincent Kompany is not fit enough to play enough consecutive games. There's their issue. Their club captain, their main man in defence, is crippled half the time. And his good defensive partner, who was solid, not outstanding, not stylish, Di Michaelis is gone. He's lost Kolarov on one side, he's lost Zabaleta on the other. Vincent Kompany cannot marshal that defence by himself. He needs, decent players. John Stones is overrated. Otamendi, I don't know what planet he's on defensively wise because he's just a disaster. The goalkeeper's fine, but he's foreign. English is not his first language. He's at a new club. And Kyle Walker, I think, is overrated as well. Pogba dyeing his hair doesn't surprise me. I think because what's come out this week is Pogba, Mkhitaryan, Sanchez, and I think multiple other players were turned down by Man City, which I think, for whatever reason, that has occurred. But all these players are represented by one agency group, one player agency or player agent. And Guardiola and this agent don't like each other. That's why these players were turned down, not because he doesn't like the player, it's because he doesn't like the person representing them. Guardiola, to me, seems not to be the most liked person in football, off the field. Look, I'm not disputing Man City Man United rivalry. I'm not. I mean, I'm a Blackburn fan. We've won the Premier League. I know what it's like to be at the top, and I know what it's like to be not at the top. What I find with Pep Guardiola, though, is I don't think he's as well liked, or as well loved, or as well liked as he wants to be. Because he has an ego, he's a massive ego, and I don't think he's well respected off the field. As a manager, he's won a lot of trophies, but you've got to look at the clubs he's been at. He's never had to coach in the lower divisions or at a lesser club with a lesser budget. He always seems to he goes to the club in the league with the biggest budget. So he's never actually had to be taxed, whereby he can't afford to buy players. He's got to work with what he's got, and he's got to improve what he's got. He's already got it. So he doesn't like it. You know, so he's always had he's had good fortune. As an international player, he won no trophies. Didn't win the Euros, didn't win the World Cup because he played for Spain at the time. Spain had famous problems of imploding every game and kicking off with each other and having meltdowns in major tournaments. But I think off the field, in the he doesn't take criticism. He can't. He has an ego that's bigger than Mourinho's. He does. He's got an ego the size of the moon. It's his way or no way, and he doesn't have a plan B. You can see when Man City get it wrong, and they've been beaten several times this season now. I don't know. I don't think he's well liked in the game. I really don't think he's well liked in the game. People may respect him as a player and as a manager, what he's achieved. Fine. He has got a great record as a manager, but he's always coached the big clubs. That's why I think he's overrated. His press conferences, he's a sarcastic bastard. Basically, I can't stand sarcasm when it comes to things like this, especially when he was sarcastically abusing the Liverpool stewards when their bus was rerouted by the police. The police rerouted that bus at Liverpool in the week, not the stewarding. The stewarding would have been consulted about it, and they would say, "Oh, well, bus routes have taken this route before." It just so happened that some idiots in the crowd, waiting for the buses to turn up, were idiots and took it too far, and that happens. That is not the fault of the stewards actually at the ground. That is a collective failure of the policing going, okay, this is a longer route, and with the history of Manchester Merseyside fixtures, be it Everton, Liverpool, Man United, Man City, whatever clubs are playing, or the history of football in that area with the rivalries that there are, that is a policing failure by Merseyside police for not adequately thinking, well, there's been a building site there for 18 months. At no point in the last 18 months have we had. I think there's a few things going on where Merseyside police have to take some responsibility. But that's that. When it comes to the sweeper keeper thing, yeah, it is a problem. Just have the sweeper role. Like the sweeper role as a position is dying out. Yes, goalkeepers have got better at ball control and linking up the play, and they are a bit more skillful with the ball at their feet than they were 20, 30 years ago. Rene Higuita aside, because Rene Higuita as a youth player was a midfielder. But for the most part, most keepers, you're there to keep the ball out of the net, not to put yourself under pressure. Your job is to clear the box out, keep the ball out of the net, make the saves. Obviously, link up the play. I'm not saying the keeper should never come out, but he seems to have this obsession with his goalkeepers playing almost a bit halfway between the halfway line and the goal. They can't play the offside trap very well. If you had a sweeper there, you don't play the offside trap. You've got that guy on behind who can force the guy out wide, tackle him out the way, protect the goalkeeper a bit more. Also taking the job of the goalkeeper, making it easier in that sweeping sense. It is dangerous he doesn't have a plan B. He doesn't take criticism well, I'll agree with that. And it's not funny that the fights happen every time Man City lose a game. I think that is an issue with several fan bases in this country. Several clubs in this country have a bad reputation for hooligan problems and hooligan elements even now. I think every club in the 80s had the issue with hooligans, but there are certain clubs and certain fixtures where there is a larger hooligan element than I think the clubs would admit to. I wouldn't say he should be sacked, but at the same time, I just don't think he's well liked in the game, as in when he retires. Well, some mental Man City fans are probably calling for his head after 2 defeats in a row. They do at Chelsea. You lose a couple of games, you're getting sacked. But no, I don't think he's well liked in the game. That's not saying he's not respected for what he's done, but I don't think when he's retired and when all these people write their books and do their memoirs and their autobiographies, I think it's going to come out that he's one of the most hated managers by other players who may have played for him. When his era of management is over, and it may well be that he retires very young as a manager and goes, I've achieved everything in the game. Can only achieve everything in the game if he goes from club management into international management and wins an international tournament with an international team. That's where I think he can be classed as one of the best managers. But it is interesting. Oh no, he's very successful, but I don't think he's well liked by even his colleagues, not necessarily his opponents. I find it very interesting that some of the best sportsmen, for the most part, for the most 90%, they're actually normally very well liked by their teammates and the opposition players because of the respect that they've earned through their career and how they conduct themselves on and off the battlefield, as we should call it. Guardiola, I don't think he's as popular as he wants to be. I think he has an ego where he has to be loved, and he doesn't like it when he gets criticised, so he can't take the criticism. Zlatan used to play for him, so there's a reason. I think if I mean, Zlatan Ibrahimovic has got a big ego as well, and that's a clash of strong-willed individuals. But if a world-class striker like Zlatan Ibrahimovic doesn't get on with Pep Guardiola as a manager, that says something. That shows up. Guardiola can't deal with that big ego in the room. He can't deal with the presence of some players do have massive egos in every team, every sport. And you get these mavericks in every sport. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a very, very big presence in the game. And yeah, Zlatan was taken on loan at Inter Milan when Mourinho took him on loan. And that's where the rivalry actually starts. Zlatan had a spat with Guardiola, and he was under contract, and his buyout clause was expensive. Or the contract he was on at Barcelona takes him to Inter. Zlatan's game-to-goal ratio, he's almost scoring a goal a game at times at periods at Inter, whereas at Barcelona it was 1 every 3. In Inter, it was 1 every 2. He actually improved his goal-scoring ratio. And Guardiola couldn't take criticism because to be a very, very good manager of people, you have to listen to your subordinates at times, the people you're actually managing. Go, okay, have you got some ideas how we can change this? Because Guardiola, his tactics, they have evolved. When he was at Barcelona, they didn't have this sweeper keeper thing. He developed that at Bayern Munich with Manuel Neuer. Manuel Neuer is an exceptional goalkeeper. He's an exceptional maverick of a goalkeeper because he is very good at coming out and timing that challenge very, very well, or clearing up if the defence had made a mistake with the offside trap. But when Manuel Neuer gets it wrong, and he does quite a lot of the time, it is really, really cringe and amateur hour. I don't understand why he obsesses so much about his keepers doing this. And he doesn't have. For some reason, in this team, he's got no one who wants to put a dirty tackle in. It is well. It's how the system's been done for a very long time. The playoff final in Championship, League One, and League Two is the winners of that playoff round in those leagues win more money than the champions of that league. So if you get direct promotion in first, second, or third, or fourth, depending on how the league structures worked out, League One, League Two, Championship, League One, and League Two, the team that wins the playoff final gets more money than the team that won automatic promotion through being as champions. The team that actually wins the playoff final of the championship makes more money out of that game than the Champions League final winner. I think it's here to stay. Whether it's fair or not is open for debate. But I think it's here to stay for the long term because of the prize money available. But it is a risky business deliberately playing for the playoffs. Very risky business going through the playoffs to get promotion. As a Blackburn fan, my team is top of League One. I'm very happy with that. And back in January, we were third. So we've had a 2-place swing, and we've won our games in hand when we've had games in hand, and we've won our games when we've had to win them. Wigan and Shrewsbury have lost some of their games in hand, and that's put us in pole position to be in charge of our own destiny. But I think the playoff, each country has a different playoff style system where the second bottom team or the team just above the relegation zone or the top of the relegation zone in that league will have a playoff with the team second or third in the league below. There is some kind of playoff system in every promotion relegation system. England's got its way of doing it, where teams from third to seventh play playoffs. Scotland has a different one itself, where the teams second bottom and the team second from top have a playoff. Germany has a different system. Depends on the country the league has been played in, but there is some kind of relegation and promotion playoff system. And each one is as equally as effective as the other. But it is what it is. I'm not a football administrator, so for me, as a fan, I'm happy that my team is not having to go through the playoffs at the moment. At the moment, I mean, there's still that could all go tits up, but my team are in a automatic promotion space. But it is interesting that the team that normally goes through the playoffs is normally the weakest team promoted to the league above. And they normally struggle more than the two directly promoted sides, but they've made more money out of it. So it also is a business move. Habib, I can't pronounce his surname. I've never been able to do it. That's all disappeared from the news the last couple of days. The Conor McGregor story. There's nothing new that's been said about it. I don't know how many people actually watched the UFC 223 last night, but 4 of the fights were taken off the card for various reasons, including Khabib's title fight because his opponent was not medically. Oh, he won. Oh, I knew that either he or one of the main eventers was taken off the card. That's probably going to inflame the Conor McGregor situation more. But I think with what's happened this week at the UFC 223 event, some jurisdictions around the world will probably ban MMA as a whole from ever hosting events in their city or in their state or in their country. The other guy had a few hours in which to make the weight, and of course, if you're like not match ready, of course he's going to win. The other guy, when you're preparing for a fight, you would have a good 6 weeks minimum to 3 months to build up to a fight. To throw another guy in within a 24-hour notice or 2 hours or 2 days notice, he's like, what? We saw it in the boxing not that long ago. I think it was Anthony Joshua had to fight a guy who had 18 days in which to make the weight, get his fitness levels up because the other guy injured himself and the promoters wanted to have a fight. That also worries me on the welfare of the participants. But it is very interesting that nothing new about Conor McGregor has come out. There's been no further press releases, statements made. He's got his bail. It's been set at a reasonable amount of money considering how much he's worth. Okay, that's different. That is different. I know that 4 fights or 3 fights were taken off the card, but the guy that Anthony Joshua had to fight in the boxing about 5-6 months ago, he had 18 days to prepare for a heavyweight bout or middleweight bout. I can't remember. That's not enough time. The thing is with UFC, 4 fights were affected by this incident, basically. And it is interesting that nothing new has come out. Artem Lobov's match was cancelled. He was thrown out the card. Now, whether they got a replacement for that undercard fight is interesting. Michael Chiesa's fight was called off because he had facial lacerations from the bus attack. There was another guy in the bus whose name I forget. His fight was off because he had an eye injury caused by McGregor's stupidity. Habib, I was surprised his fight was going to go ahead because they had named another guy to come in and he had a day and a half, 2 days to make the weight. I think UFC have made a big error of judgment. But at the same time, Conor McGregor's made a massive error of judgment, and there have been those people on various internet forums, in the media, on Twitter, on social media, mainstream media, commenting on other YouTube videos saying this was all a publicity stunt. What Conor McGregor did? No, he's probably just made himself the wealthiest unemployed person in the world. I think as soon as he won his title belt and he did some of his celebratory antics after he won his title belt, nearly 2 years ago, some of his antics have been really bizarre and not in a good way bizarre. I think he's definitely got a substance abuse problem of some kind, be it alcohol or prescription medication or illegal drugs, steroids. He's clearly got a substance abuse problem, amongst a few other things. And someone else mentioned on another YouTube video that he's a case of CTE. He probably does have some kind of brain damage. He has got a small, and a lot of Irish people have been commenting on a lot of YouTube videos and Twitter streams and Twitter threads and on Facebook that people in Ireland don't like him as much as people in Ireland don't like him a lot. Well, there's a significant proportion of the fans of UFC in Ireland don't like him, and a significant portion of the Irish sports media don't like him, and Irish society as a whole, because he's got this drunken, angry Irish fighting stereotype that Ireland doesn't want. Irish people don't want that stereotype of being thuggy and angry and violent. But I'm really surprised how quickly the joy's gone to hate. Because you've got to remember, 10 years ago, he was a trainee plumber who was on part-time plumber, who was also on job seekers, employment assistance, and he was earning 400 quid a month on his employment assistance, and he was part-time getting the odd plumbing job here or there. I think he's forgotten where he comes from as a person, from a working class area. I think he's forgotten his roots, which is a problem. Hard-working roots, he's forgotten that. He's the richest loser in history, because to lose a boxing bout against Floyd Mayweather and earning over 100 million to 100, depending on the sources you read, to 150 million US dollars for losing, and a lot of his antics since he has won, when he won his last belt, which he's now been stripped of, his antics since that date have been bizarre. He's showing a lot of signs of mental health issues and substance abuse problems. Now, whether he's obviously, with being a mixed martial artist, CTE is a big thing at the moment in NFL, NHL, rugby union. Concussion's a big thing. We can't discount that he's had frontal lobe damage. But no, I am surprised how the hate has accelerated so quickly. I knew some people were never a fan of him. I'm just surprised that the hate has grown so quickly over the last 2 years. I'm not I don't mind watching UFC if a friend's got the pay-per-view, or there's a highlight show or whatever, or if there's there are some of the smaller promotions do stream live on YouTube and other streaming sites. I will watch it if a friend's got it on. I will happily watch it. I had UFC 2 on my Xbox by EA Sports. It wasn't actually a bad game. It was better than Fight Night. I actually really enjoyed it. Playing it was actually quite easy to play, and the graphics were pretty good, and you could make your fighter as ugly as possible. And obviously, he made a lot of money out of that because his image was used. I do think though that what he has gone and done has damaged the sport that he participates in. That has already got a bit of a reputation where a lot of jurisdictions around the world are a big fan of MMA. He's not the first MMA fighter to have issues with violence outside the octagon, as they call it, outside of the cage. Because cage fighting and MMA are two different things. But he's one of the biggest names in this sport's history. But it is what it is. Khabib winning McGregor's title was probably going to not help the situation. I think they were probably better off withdrawing that fight from the card completely and putting a tournament to win the title from in that weight division would have been probably a far better bet than Khabib to win. I think that's also going to possibly cause further issues down the line. But no, UFC as a brand is damaged, probably beyond repair. People aren't willing to pay for the pay-per-views because in the last 10 years, since Conor McGregor has actually been involved in UFC, many people's incomes are not as high in real terms as they were. And yeah, a tournament would be a good idea. Boxing's gone down this route now with this kind of tournament structure, which they've had in the last couple of years, and it's actually getting more people watching boxing. There's more boxing on the TV on free to wear. Some of the lesser matches, some of the lesser fights are on free to wear TV more and more now, which is good. And I think Sky Sports and BT Sport and Premier Sports are going to realise, the three big sports TV companies in the UK and around the world, they're going to realise we're not paying for the pay-per-views. We refuse to pay for poor coverage. And why would I want to pay £15 to £30 for a fight that could be over in the first round? That's the problem with pay-per-view boxing or pay-per-view MMA. The fight could be over in 30 seconds. And I have seen fights that have lasted less than a minute. And I'm being deadly serious. I've seen fights last less than a minute. Why do I want to pay 30 quid to watch 6 punches and one guy have possible severe brain damage? I've done Wing Chun, I've done kickboxing, I've done boxing I've been a sparring partner for loads of my mates. I've done it. I was tempted to go amateur as a boxer and then try and go professional. I was tempted to start doing amateur boxing, and I still am. But I'm less tempted now than what I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I do think that Wing Chun is a Chinese martial art that Bruce Lee, the actor, was a Wing Chun expert. He was taught by a guy called Ip Man. Wing Chun is a Chinese martial art developed in the 1920s, or even earlier, I think, maybe 300 years ago. But it became to prominence in the 1920s with a man called Ip Man, who was a Chinese martial artist. And Bruce Lee was his student towards the end of Ip Man's life. And it's exceptionally interesting martial art. It's a self-defense martial art. It was actually designed for women originally, so women could defend themselves. But a lot of men also have worked out that, especially if you're slim like me and you're a slim build, Wing Chun is great if you're of a smaller build than a bigger man. Wing Chun, though, is a really, really, really interesting martial art. I only did it for a little bit. There's a lot of hand movements, and you defend and you block like this. You block a lot like that, and you palm away, and then a lot of hits in this area. That's where you do it. Kickboxing, you've got your hands like this a lot, and you bring your knees up, and you elbow a lot. Wing Chun is more like this, and you flow your hands and you flow your punches a lot, and you relax your arms, and you do a lot of punching around this area, and you use your arms to block and move away, and then you can come in with a counter strike. It's basically using the opposition person's attacks against them. So when they come in for a punch or an elbow, you block, and then you can counter attack. With the kickboxing, your hands are up a lot more, and you're trying to grab around the back of the head, get your knees up, and get kicks in. And the normal boxing is obviously, again, you guard your head a lot, but they all really are very, very different. Boxing is more attack and defense, quite literally. You get your guard and you hit and you try and break the defense down. Wing Chun is about defending yourself by using your opponent's weight and strikes against them. And kickboxing is a combination of, kicks, grabs, and punches. And it bloody hurts. But my mate was teaching me Wing Chun before he passed away. I know a little bit, and so if you're going for a punch, you palm away. So it's all about, this is the punch, and you put your arm up and you twist away, and then you hit into them. It's all to do with basically, yeah, using their off balanceness or their attack against them. There's a lot of blocking strikes with your forearm, and a lot of the moves are quite quick. Oh no, yeah, dojo is completely different. I have actually, people high as a kite is completely different. Best place to go is throat, bollocks, armpits. Anywhere they can't defend is easily, if you do hit them, they incapacitate them. Knees, a good one. Groin, throat, and if you hit a guy underneath here, get a good uppercut in, disarm. There's a big nerve that runs up here. If you hit them in their armpit, that arm goes dead, and you can pull them over. And yeah, throat shots, they work. So grab your throat, rip it. Nut shots. The thing is, most World Street situations, Wing Chun is quite good, because if they are flailing a lot, it doesn't matter if they're predictable or not. That's where it's quite a good one, because they're going to be off balance. You can use that against them, and you can make them look like a rag doll, and it's quite fun. Alcohol is normally the situation in most street situations. There's alcohol involved, which means they're going to be slightly slower than they normally would be, even though they believe they're going quicker. There may be cocaine involved, so they believe they're overconfident. And yeah, throat, crotch, armpit shots, rib shots, anywhere that's going to stop them from functioning. So airways and joints. So if you take your knee out, a bloke can't fight with no leg. Hello there. Hello. But no, real world situations, dojo is completely different. But I have used various things I've learned in. I've got mates who do MMA, chokeholds. I've learned wrestling is very effective. Oh yeah. A friend of mine, he's a bit older than me. He's an ex-collegiate wrestler and collegiate swimmer in America. Yeah, he even at his age, and he's 50, he can wrestle. As I found out the other night, he's split my shoulder open. Chokehold's pretty good, and some of those are actually mixing. But I tend to, those looking for a fight are the ones that are A, most likely to lose, and B, it's going to be trouble anyway, and people will get hurt. I go in the pub to socialise with my friends, have a pint, have a chinwag, catch up with people, socialise, be friendly, and go on my way. I let the meatheads do all the fighting. There's no point. I have done my fair bit of fight. I've got into fights, and then I realised I was a bit of a street brawler back in the day, and then I realised it was pointless, because alcohol was normally involved. I was normally made to look like a tit. I've had my nose broken a few times. It does get knocked out. I've knocked people out, but I've been knocked out as well. So I've worked out there are better ways of doing it. The reason why I started to get into kickboxing and Wing Chun and things like that was self-discipline. I was going through a lot of issues at the time where I wasn't disciplined in my life, and alcohol and drugs were a problem, and drugs were especially a problem. Alcohol was a bit of an issue, but drugs was a serious problem. Discipline where I didn't need to rely on those things to you know get through things. But no, wrestling is very, very effective. If you combine wrestling with the other martial arts, or other forms of fighting, that's how mixed martial arts are so interesting. The thing is, there's a lot of holds in mixed martial arts now. A lot of holds. It's very rare that both fighters stay on their feet for more than 30 seconds in a round. Most of it is scrappling on the floor, which is also pretty dull to watch, especially when a guy is being punched repeatedly in the head and he can't defend himself. I can get his hands up and block it a little bit. That's where I draw the line with MMA. But it is what it is. It's very interesting how on talking about this and how we've got onto this, but this is how I like these live streams, because every sport is getting a chance here, and people are putting in questions about football. I'm very surprised no rugby league or rugby union questions have been asked tonight, but the NRL and the Super League are now, in their first couple, got the first couple of months out of the way. The rugby union in the UK is down. We're at the end of the season, but the main story in sport at the moment is the Humboldt Broncos ice hockey team and what happened in Saskatchewan with that, where their coach carrying, when they're a junior hockey team in Canada, the ages are like 17 to 21. Some players maybe 22. So these are young lads. They're amateur level hockey players. They want to play in the NHL or professional leagues around the world. That's the goal for them. Is the ultimate goal is to play for the NHL if they're good enough. But most of them realise they have a ceiling and they will probably earn a good career in a professional, and 15 of them have died. The youngest victim was their scorekeeper, who was their stats man, who was a 15-year-old from the town of Humboldt in Saskatchewan, and he was 15 years old. He was the youngest victim in the accident. And he was also a hockey player, but he was not a junior hockey player. He was a youth hockey player, but he was the stats guy. He would write down all the stats, all the who scored what goal, who scored a hat trick, who got all the assists, and he was a young 15-year-old kid, and he subscribed to a channel that I also subscribe to, that I also communicate a lot with, and he's a Canadian guy called the Hockey Guy. And last night I saw a grown man in tears, because this young kid from the early days, this guy's channel had been pretty young, and regularly commented on all his videos without fail. He would sometimes disagree with him, sometimes agree with him. But a 15-year-old kid whose life's been taken away because of, we don't 100% know. We do know that the truck did T-bone the bus. And the photos are on Twitter and on Facebook and on the news websites, and it's dominated the sports news at the moment. So all these other stories have been not as covered as much. And yeah, this channel I subscribe to, this guy deals with just NHL hockey and a few minor leagues as well. So he's called the Hockey Guy, and he found out that one of his well-known subscribers was the scorekeeper of this team who died, and he was really, 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 really affected by it. And of course, what made it sadder for me is obviously I've got a funeral to go to tomorrow, of one of my best mates who was tragically killed over the weekend. So I'm not doing any videos tomorrow. I'm not doing any live stream tomorrow. I'm for most of the day. I'm not going to be in, I think, the right frame of mind to do a video. I don't particularly want to. I'll be very upset tomorrow, and I don't think you guys want to see me all depressed and agged. So yeah, but the Humboldt tragedy, it's not the first time this happened in Canadian ice hockey. 32 years ago, a similar thing happened in the same province of Canada, in Saskatchewan. 4 people were killed, but this one's killed 15. And obviously, we now know how many have died and how many are in hospital. And there's a very touching photograph of a couple of teammates, with one of their teammates who's not injured, who's there with them, keeping them company while they are in hospital. More will come out. We'll find out what caused the truck to hit the coach, or what caused the coach to be hit by the truck. And we as people on social media have to be very careful on how we respond to it, what we conjecture, because it is what it is. Same with the Conor McGregor thing. Like, I've heard some people say he's got 5 charges against him, and what I've read, he's got 4. So when it comes to legal things, especially in the aftermath of an accident like happened in Saskatchewan the other day, or what Conor McGregor did, we have to be careful in how we convey our thoughts on the whole, in a libel act, because I don't particularly want to get sued. But that's dominated the sports headlines. I know the Commonwealth Games are going on, but the coverage, I mean, because it's in Gold Coast, I would have to wake up really early in the morning, if I'm honest, to catch the evening. WrestleMania. I haven't watched WWE for about 9 years. Like 9 years is the last time I watched a WWE Raw. I haven't watched it for a very long time. I've watched TNA and the what is now Impact Wrestling more recently, but I haven't seen or been happy to watch WrestleMania for a long time. I have. I am. Don't get me wrong. I've got friends who do the indie circuit wrestling scene, who do pro wrestling as on the independent circuit in the UK. I've got friends who do it. I've got friends who also know people who are now in the developmental programs for both Impact and WWE. No, it's staged, but the athletes doing it does hurt. When they say everyone says it's fake, it's not fully fake. It's not fully real. The storylines are staged. The matches are staged. Come to a conclusion. What they do in between point A and T, that's why it's sports entertainment. I have friends who got a wrestling ring, a pile driver, or you get suplexed. Those wooden boards really hurt. I helped put a wrestling ring together, and I can tell you now, Triple H broke his leg in a wrestling match and tore both his quads. Stone Cold, he was a real badass, and he really doesn't like Vince McMahon. Not that he would do. But I haven't. I have my own issues with WWE, and as now I have this channel, and I've been doing what I've been doing for a year now. On the 21st of April, be a year's anniversary since I started doing my videos. What I've noticed about WWE over the last 5-10 years is they brought in the wellness policy after Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit did what he did and died in the process of murder suicide. And the amount of wrestlers who breached the wellness policy but been allowed back in after 30-day layoff or 60-day layoff. If that was in pro sports, so in professional sports, they'll get a 2-year ban. There's a lot of issues with a lot of wrestlers dying young, both male and female, in the last 10 years. A lot of them have died young. So we'll go from Chris Benoit onwards. Or maybe no, Eddie Guerrero, actually, was my favourite wrestler when I actually was watching the Attitude Era when I was at school, when I was a teenager. When he died, I think I fell out of love with wrestling for a long time. And then my friend Nikki, her favourite wrestler was Chris Benoit. When he died, she fell out of love with wrestling. I don't mind watching the Impact Zone because I like the 6-sided ring. It's a different concept. It makes it interesting. They were the first wrestling promotion to stream on YouTube before they got a TV deal. So in that sense, they entertain. But no, WWE, they've done some very, very crazy storylines that make no sense. Vince McMahon is a maverick. He really is, and I have issues with how they look. I mean, CM Punk, his feud, which was real and not kayfabe. Kayfabe is the storyline, you go with it, but his real feud was the well-being and the health of the athletes. And oh yeah, damaging. I mean, cutting off oxygen to the brain with brain damage. Vince McMahon is on steroids. There was the steroids trial in 1994. But listen to CM Punk's interview with Jericho podcast and with Colt Cabana podcast. He did 2 interviews with other wrestlers who have their own podcasts on YouTube. One with Chris Jericho, one with Colt Cabana. A couple of years ago now. And CM Punk basically lays it on the line that his health was put at risk because he had a cyst on his back that wasn't properly looked at. That could have killed him with blood poisoning. Athlete, there are certain performers, and I'll call them athletes because they do, really. Some of them have played American football. Some of them have wrestled at Olympic wrestling, which is different, like Kurt Angle. Some have done MMA. Others have played rugby. Some of these wrestlers actually have been professional sportsmen, so they are athletes. The welfare of them is with the company is not good. There's issues with steroids. There is still an issue with steroids even now. Look at Brock Lesnar. He's clearly roided up most of the time because he failed a drugs test in UFC. He's failed wellness policy multiple times. There's issues with abuse of prescription medication. There's issues with drug addiction and alcoholism. And Eddie Guerrero, when he died, I fell out of love with wrestling for a good 5 years. I really fell out of love with wrestling for 5 years. He was my favourite wrestler. I had crazy haircut like him. Oh yeah, I did that. He was my favourite wrestler in the late 90s, early 90s, and then he died. And he had a history of steroid use, which came out after he died. Same with Chris Benoit. Again, they were both smaller men, but you could tell they were on steroids. I'm not going to lie. Vince McMahon, yes, there was a steroids trial in 1994 that was also not only linked just to wrestling, but also to NFL and a few other pro sports. But the type in on the internet the 1994 WWE steroids trial, and that almost shut WWE down. That was before the Attitude Era started. Then the Attitude Era started as a rebranding of the company, but he almost lost everything because of steroids trial. Realistically, Conor McGregor is tiny. The only hope he's got if he gets in there quick and gets a lucky punch, but the Undertaker will kill him. In real life, to be a wrestler, most of them have actually done collegiate wrestling. So they have actually done a martial art before pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is sports entertainment. Collegiate wrestling is, and proper old school Greco-Roman style wrestling is a martial art. And I think Conor McGregor would probably die. Undertaker is only 7 foot tall. Conor McGregor is 5'8". Conor McGregor would be quite literally destroyed. Speed and size can only get you so far. Speed and agility gets you so far, but no. I think in real life, I think the Undertaker would probably destroy Conor McGregor. I'm being dead serious. I don't think Conor McGregor would get up from that. I don't really follow any martial arts on YouTube. It's not because I don't enjoy participating in them. I've just fallen out of love with them over the last few years, and it is to do with what UFC has become. UFC has just become a place where thugs can legitimately earn money for being violent, and in my eyes. And I've been watching. I used to watch UFC a lot more. The last couple of years, UFC and boxing and Muay Thai and kickboxing and all the professional forms of these martial arts and have had issues with athletes' health and well-being. I have a friend whose twin brother was almost paralysed because, again, on the wrestling circuit, guy got a move wrong and broke 3 of his neck vertebrae, and he was temporarily paralysed, and he was lucky to walk again. This is an issue that keeps coming up. It's the welfare of the athletes, and it's not going away. And UFC and WWE and the boxing promoters like WBO and all these promoters want these issues to just go away. Just go away. The amount of boxers who have died in the last 18 months from one died at the age of 41 after he retired, but several have died either in training or just after a fight. And obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. had a fight against his opponent a couple of years ago, and that young lad, who was also a very good fighter, let's not dispute the fact he was a good fighter and he actually had a good record, ended up with a bleed on his brain. And the referee should have stopped the fight far earlier. Refereeing standards in kickboxing, normal boxing, and MMA are not high enough. They've completely gone downhill. Hence why I don't watch martial arts on YouTube. I will follow the sport for the channel. Would I actively if I wasn't doing a YouTube sports channel, I wouldn't probably have any interest in UFC or the boxing at all. A friend of mine was very lucky to survive. We were both involved in a motorcycle accident last year. He crashed into the back of me. He claimed he was fit enough to ride home, so I let him ride home. We patched the bikes at the side of the road. He rode home on his motorcycle. I get a phone call a few hours later. We're going to fix the bikes, and we fixed the bikes, mine and his. Mine had minor damage. He had a fairing that had been broken. I had a broken brake light. That was it. That was actually and a cracked exhaust. That was actually how easy it was. He had a few bent levers. And then we sat down and had dinner, and then he didn't feel very well. And this is a good 6 hours after the accident. It turns out that he doesn't remember the accident, and I had to fill him in. At which point I worked out when he collided with me, his head hit my shoulder and he knocked himself out. His concussion symptoms came in 6 hours after the accident. And we had to take him to hospital, and he was very, very lucky because a little bit of bone had chipped off in his ear, in his skull, and he was very, very lucky that he hadn't died. It turned out he was very lucky. He had a bit of bruising on the brain, a little bruise, and a bit of swelling, and a bit of a lump on his head, and he had a broken hand and a fractured kneecap. And he was exceptionally lucky that I took him to the hospital when he did have his concussion symptoms, because he collapsed on me and we took him to hospital. And he was not well at all, and he was a lucky boy, and he wasn't allowed to work or do anything for 6 weeks. They really basically shut him down completely. So when I watch the NHL or other ice hockey leagues or games that I watch in person, because my local team plays in the national, the NIHL in the UK, which is our second tier of English ice hockey, there are hits on players that that guy is concussed, that guy's got wobbly legs, he shouldn't play on, and then they play the next game, which could be a back-to-back, it could be 2 games in 2 days. I have my concerns about repetitive concussions as an ex kickboxer and martial artist, and I've done boxing sparring, I've done Wing Chun. I've had blows to the head. As an ex-rugby player, I've been concussed twice in the same game, or knocked out twice in the same game, and had a concussion. And I've probably had about 5 or 6 that I know of playing rugby at school and at senior level. But it's also the player's mindset and the coach's mindset, and are the medical teams that surround these sports under pressure to get the star athletes back out on the pitch quicker. Because I've done many videos on my channel about player welfare, and the CTE lawsuit with the NFL and NHL and other contact sports, including boxing, because all these contact sports are getting thrown in there, and wrestling as well, and pro wrestling. They've come onto the CTE trial lawsuits because of Chris Benoit, and that sparked this whole investigation by the doctor with the NFL, which led to the lawsuit being brought. A lot of athletes are rushed back. No, it's not just concussion, it's all injuries. It could be a leg break, it could be a muscle tear, it could be a groin strain, it could be a bit of flu. But oh yeah, balls were heavier. They weren't harder, they were just heavier because they were made out of leather. Now they're made out of polymers. But the issue is, it's not just concussions that's a problem. When I did my player welfare videos, or I have done, I'm concerned that athletes are being rushed back from injury well before they're ready. It doesn't matter if it's a head injury or any injury. And that does have a wear and tear effect on the body. And the amount of athletes who've then gone on to prescription drug addiction, alcoholism, or other drug addiction. So Paul Gascoigne, he had an injury in 1990 in the FA Cup semi-final against Nottingham Forest. He got sent off for that, but he also injured himself in the tackle. He was never the same player again. And his alcohol issues had, by this point, got out. Well, not bad, but were getting out of control. Frank Bruno, boxer, had a nervous breakdown. Now we can contribute that to a lot of concussions as well. And you do notice now that when he wasn't the greatest talker when he was a fighter, but you can tell that he's clearly mentally, mental faculties are a lot less now than what they were. You notice it with Muhammad Ali towards the end of his life, when his speech started to go and his speech started to slow down. You knew George Foreman, another Joe Frazier, all of them, when they were nearly, George Foreman's still alive, but a lot of these boxers towards the end of their careers, they talk a bit slower, and you can tell that they're not all okay. But what I find really funny is a lot of people don't watch these videos. You would think with the CTE lawsuits going on in North America involving all sports. It's not just NFL and NHL. All sports are covered by it because athletes from various other plaintiffs are joining in and approaching the legal teams that are representing the NFL and NHL athletes, ex-athletes. More and more athletes are signing up and having meetings with the lawyers. And yeah, in the time the lawsuit has begun, I think began in like 2007, 2008, plaintiffs, i.e. the people who are trying to take the NFL and NHL to court, have died. So it is interesting. I'm very interested by the lack of viewership because these are serious issues. And there have been some ice hockey games that I've been to this season where players are seriously concussed. Whether it's a clean hit or a dirty hit, they're concussed. And I think it doesn't matter what level of sport you're at. I think a lot of the team doctors and the teams are pressurising doctors to get these guys and girls back into the sport quicker than they should be. When I took my mate to the hospital, as I said, he was off work for 6 weeks. They completely shut him down. He did also have a knee and a hand injury, but they shut him down. He did not do anything for 6 weeks, and he was ill. But no, Casey, Frankie did concuss. Well, there were 2 incidents that Frankie Bakalik was involved in ice hockey this season. One of them, he was naughty. He did put an elbow into the guy, an unsuspecting guy's head, and knock him straight sparko out, and the guy left on a stretcher. The second one, actually, his shoulder was down, and it was shoulder to shoulder. It just happened that the other guy he was checking was 5'7", and Frankie Bakalik 6'5". That was. I think it was at London, or it could have been Invicta. It was one of those 2 teams. He caught Webster in the head. The footage is on YouTube. Thousands of people, if not hundreds, tens of thousands of people, have seen it now. And then there was a retaliation fight when they next met, and then there was the incident against Basingstoke, again, another game I was at. I couldn't see the incident because of where I was sat in the rink, but some of my friends were in the corner where it happened, and they were saying it was shoulder to shoulder contact. It just so happened the guy he was checking is a lot smaller, so what's he going to do? Completely duck down into it? It was side to side, and the guy went into the board. It was not charging or boarding, and the guy was concussed, but because of the previous, he was ejected. But the player had to be helped off by 2 or 3 of his teammates, and I tell you now, his legs were like jelly. There was a game earlier in the season, I think back in when one of our players, Callum Best, was checked headfirst into the boards. I'm not sure by which team we were playing. I think it was Basingstoke. I think it actually was the Basingstoke Cup game. And he was clearly concussed, but he played on, and that's where I have concerns. And this is at lower league ice hockey. We're not talking about NHL level. But I've seen hits in the NHL this season where players are their legs have gone to jelly. I should call my fans. How can I call my fans? You're my viewers. I wouldn't go fans. I don't like the word fans because I'm not a sport. I'm not a team. I'm just a YouTuber with their bumpers. I see what you mean. So we're going for Jessica R. All you got to do is put a question in. I don't have any subscribers numbers apart from 2 who are my friends. 2 of my friends subscribe to the channel, and I have their phone numbers. But they're my friends who subscribe to the channel, and I have no idea. I know. Don't worry about it, Casey. We will move on. their English is badly grammared. But no, I've seen in the Six Nations, there's been a lot of concussions in the Six Nations. There's been a lot of concussions in the Six Nations this season. When I was watching the rugby, there was a lot of concussions in the Rugby League World Cup, and those players carried on playing. They've got these concussion protocols in place in sport, and they're not being strictly adhered to. Because some of the hits I see in rugby league, rugby union, ice hockey, you can clearly tell that they're hurt and they shouldn't play on, yet they somehow miraculously recover. And I've seen some in European Champions Cup rugby, and again, so there's the standard of officiating, and the standard of care is not always consistent, and that's a worry, even though there's these protocols in place. But it is what it is. Right, it's nearly night. It's nearly 10 o'clock. So I'll take a couple more questions, and then I'm going to wind the live stream down because we've been going for nearly 2 hours, and I don't want to keep going all night. Because I have to be up in the morning. I have a funeral to go to. So, any more questions? No more questions from anyone. We've covered a lot of topics tonight. I don't want to go on about one particular sport over another. This is why I like this channel. We've had people from India early on. We've had obviously lots of people from the UK. We've had people from Canada and the US and Australia. So I'm very, 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 very happy. Everyone has contributed again, and it's yeah. I thought I was right. I thought I'd read the press. It was, I think, the reason why I knew that the winner of the Oxford City Stars. Yeah, I think the reason why I did read it. There was a press statement when the league was trying to format the with and then Oxford and Chelmsford pulled out, and I think there was a statement released after Oxford and Chelmsford pulled out of Division 1, and it mucked the league structure up that there wouldn't be any relegation, but a team would get promoted. So I'm assuming Cardiff Fire will stay in. We have to see what happens with Basingstoke, but at the end of the day, British ice hockey is an uncertain sport. Well, British ice hockey is always going through uncertain times at the end of every season. We're not even sure if any of the teams are coming back. Yes, Musical Nep, you are the only Aussie, but that I know of, because we've had people come in and out of the live stream all night. But you've been with us for quite some time tonight, Casey. You've come in and out tonight as well. But it is what it is. Now, great topics tonight. Some very, very good questions. The Masters Golf is still obviously going on, and I will probably be able to catch the end of that when I come in from the pub tonight. But no, and the league said about the season, so no South Team league team join. Yes, that is, I think, the statement I read at the beginning of the season. That's obviously going along the same lines as what was released in August, I think, or July last year, when the league was trying to sort out its fixture list and the teams, etc. So that statement hasn't changed. So that should mean, fingers crossed, if Basingstoke can find a rink solution, then we'll have 10 teams rather than 9, which makes it more interesting. And I'll be really looking forward to that. I'll be interested to see if Cardiff Fire can actually win a game, because I've never seen a team in any league never win a game and lose every game they've played, apart from the game that was cancelled that they decided to give us a draw. I've never seen a team never get a win all season and be winless. But I think Cardiff Fire learned a lot from their first season in the second tier of English ice hockey. I think they learned a lot, but bearing in mind they've only been a team for 3 years. This is their third year coming up. They only formed in 2015, so they haven't been going very, very long. So to get players to play for them when you're starting up a team, they've come a long way in that respect. But this would have been a very, very good learning curve for them. And hopefully they're a bit more competitive next year, and that they can contribute more to the league next year, and they can actually have a couple of wins. Because Invicta, towards the end of the season, looked not great, if I'm honest. I wouldn't say they get 10 wins because that means they're mid-table. I would definitely say that they're more competitive than they were, and I think having another team of about equal level of Nottingham City Stars coming up may make them more competitive as well. With the success of the Cardiff Devils, that should help them as well. But it was a shame they weren't as. I was hoping they would get at least a couple of wins last season, and they weren't even close. They got closer towards the end, and I'm hoping that they do manage to improve enough, because it was obviously a very, very steep learning curve for them last year, and some of the games they played the scorelines were massive against them. There was that Swindon game where it was like 13 or 15-1, and it was a fight-filled affair. Hopefully the scorelines are a bit closer, and hopefully they can get 10, 20, 30, 10 or 20 points, and at least be competitive and close, because some of the defeats towards the end of the season, they were getting close, and they got 2 overtime losses, so they did show a little bit of fight towards the end. But at that point, Invicta had struggled and gone on a very long losing streak as well. So had they got 2 or 3, 4 wins, then it would have made it interesting. But they just didn't have enough games left when they started improving to catch up to Invicta. But that's that. Anyway, any more questions? Because I've done ice hockey a lot tonight, and I've answered a lot of your questions. Any more questions from anyone? Because it's been a great live stream. I've been wearing the crazy hat and the crazy glasses all night, because why not? It's a Sunday. For all those of you watching, there'll be no videos on the channel tomorrow, and there'll be no live stream tomorrow. I'm going to a funeral, as I've stated at various points in the live stream. So if you've just joined, I'm not doing any live streams tomorrow and no videos, because I'm at a funeral. And to be honest, I'm probably going to get very, very drunk at the wake, so I probably won't be in a fit state to even turn my laptop on. But I want to say okay, I'm going to leave that there then. Thank you to everyone who has participated this evening in the live stream. There's been a lot of great questions. We've covered a lot of topics again. See you later. Obviously, the live stream only works because of you guys asking all the questions, and we've got some new faces popping up. We've got some new subscribers over the last couple of weeks. We've got some new faces in the live streams. Obviously, not everyone's able to stay for the whole 2 hours plus. I mean, maybe we might try and break a channel record and go for 3 hours in the week. I might do a 3-hour live stream Tuesday rather than 2, because it will make up for the day we lost tomorrow. But I'm going to look at these video ideas that you guys have given in over the last week and a half on the live streams. Some really great video ideas here, really, really great. And I can, when I get in from the funeral tomorrow, I can do my research, take a lot more notes, really look into the ideas, and I'm going to pick, I think, 4 or 5 of them. I am going to do a series on cricket with my 11 favourite players. That is something I will be doing. So if you're a cricket fan, I'll be doing my 11 favourite players. And you'll be surprised by some of my favourites. They may not be the greatest players, but they're my favourite players. So I'll be doing videos on that. I'll be doing videos on the NHL playoffs. Probably a playoff predictor, kind of looking at all the matchups from the first round, and I'll be trying to work out the Stanley Cup final, and that'll be really hard and really interesting. And I've got 4 days in which to actually research that and do it, and before the Stanley Cup playoffs start. And then we've got other ones on what have I got to look at? I've got to look at IPL squads, I might do that later on. And the Elite League Ice Hockey, they're not going to be the most popular videos, I admit. History on some sports teams, so I've got a few written down. There's a lot on that one. Let's look at this page. What I've got here, I've got some of the lesser known sports, and I've got a request on a football league video. Sumo wrestling, there, that's come up. Conor McGregor, I've done that video now. I'll leave that until when he goes on trial, then that will be interesting. But there's nothing new on Conor McGregor, so there's nothing else to report there. But there's some other lesser known sports, and then finally we've got as I said, there's going to be a few cricket videos. There's going to be some sumo. There's going to be NHL playoffs. I might do some more videos on Major League Baseball and NBA and some of the North American major sports, and how the NBA salary cap works, and how the NBA is the most valuable league in the world and the richest league in the world. Obviously, the British touring cars have started. The F1 season started. The Superbikes and MotoGP have got going. So there's various things going on. That's what we've got to look forward to. But no, for now, good night, goodbye, good day, wherever you are in the world. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. Thank you very much for everyone who's participated. We've had a lot of good questions, a lot of topics covered, and obviously some people have been in for a little bit and been involved for a little bit of the live stream, and that's fine. And I know one of my other subscribers has got his own live stream on now, Kemmel AA. If you're not used to Kemmel, he does comment a lot. He does come into the live streams a lot. He's a Chelsea fan, but he also does, answer questions on other teams and other sports as well. He's a real interesting young lad. So I support him, he supports me. So if you don't see me on live stream one night, I'm probably on his channel. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll see you soon.